Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have Rotarian Nelson Buru pray for us. Rotarian Nelson.
Let's pray. The Rotary Grace. O God and giver of all good, we thank thee for our daily food. May Rotary friends and Rotary ways help us to serve thee all of our days. Amen.
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 And I will now request Rotarian Bernard Kiragu to kindly recite the four-way test. Rotarian Bernard, are you with us?
Thank you. Now unmuted, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. All the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you. And now, if we have something to drink, I would request everyone to please raise a glass. Alternatively, keep your hand on the chest as we toast to the President of the Republic of Kenya. To the President. How wonderful. So we have with us today visiting Rotarians and guests as individuals are logging on. I've just received confirmation of many more Rotarians who are soon logging on. We have with us visiting is Rotarian Roberta Mello, all the way from Brazil. Welcome, Rotarian Roberta. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Here is good morning.
Yes, welcome, most welcome. We have with us Past President Edward from Ongata Rongai.
Good afternoon, joining you from Kisii. Good to be here.
Wonderful, welcome. We have with us Rotarian Nahashon, President Nahashon. Welcome. And we have with us visiting Rotarians also from Rotary Club of Bangalore, Rajmahal Villas. And we are expecting some Rotarians joining us from Rotary Club of Madras as well, and many other clubs from our district, 9212. Rotarian Sylvia, welcome. Please unmute yourself. Rotarian Sylvia?
Yes, Rutesh.
Say hello to us and to our guests.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rotarian Sylvia Mora from RC Motaiga, currently serving as the Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator for Zone 22, and I'm glad to join you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And we have Rotarians guests. So I will begin by introducing my guest for today is our speaker, Mr. Rakesh Anand Bakshi. I will do a proper introduction just before the talk begins. But in welcoming Mr. Rakesh Bakshi, I would also request Rakesh, if you can please introduce the three guests you have brought to the club today.
Hi, good afternoon and good morning or good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's good to be amongst Rotarians. They are like, I believe they are like the torch bearers of society. I'm not a Rotarian, but I have a lot of Rotarian friends. And I think the biggest qualification, the number one qualification one requires to be a Rotarian is a lot of empathy. And I think that's the one glue that is going to bind us all together. Whether there's COVID will come, COVID will go. But one thing that is going to bind all of us together is going to be empathy. And I think Rotarians share empathy in large numbers. They share it amongst themselves, their group. And because of that, they are able to share it in society. So I'm waiting for Nilofer to come on board. When she comes on board, I'll introduce the three singers that I requested to come on, join us in this event.
Wonderful. I see Nilofer is waving at us.
Hi.
She is here. Hi Nilofer, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
The voice of East Africa is here.
You're being extra generous, you know that, Rakesh, but it's so good to see you. After
You know, when you're with Rotarians, you need to be extra generous, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Not only in your pockets, but even in your speech, in your talk.
Trust me, हम रेडियो प्रेजेंटर्स का भी वही हाल है. हम ना ऊपर से बहुत पैसे वाले नजर आते हैं. Pockets हमारी उसी से भरी होती है with lots of love and affection from our listeners and you. Thank you.
So Nilofer and all the guests and Ritesh, I would like you to meet the three singers I invited. I told them that you come on board and I would like you to sing a song each, because we're speaking about Anand Bakshi Saab, also my dad, the lyricist. I don't know how much you know about him, but I think Nilofer will be able to say some things about him. Ritesh will be able to speak about a little bit about him, introduce you to him.
Of course.
But I told them that I wanted to come and sing just 2 verses from every song that you have prepared for this event, and you know, without any music, no music accompaniment, just the vocals. Because I think when you just hear vocals, that's when, without the music, that's when you get the essence of the lyrics. They come across much better.
True.
So let me introduce you to Sangeeta. Sangeeta is from Bangalore. Sangeeta, are you here?
Yes, sir, I'm here. My greetings to everyone here in Rotary Club, and thanks for inviting me for this meet. It means a lot to me.
Most welcome, most welcome. Sangeeta is from Bangalore and she's a very passionate singer. She loves to sing Hindi songs. And the next person we have is Vaishnavi from Bombay. Vaishnavi, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Vaishnavi is a classically trained singer we have with us.
Hello everyone, I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you so much, Rakesh sir, for inviting me for this event. I'm very happy to sing today.
Thank you very much for being with us. And we have Mahashweta. Mahashweta, are you here with us? Unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself. Shweta, you need to unmute yourself. Unmute. Shweta, go on the bottom. On the bottom left, you'll see a mic. Unmute it. We can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Your mic is on mute. Yeah, just say something now.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can
Shweta,
you hear me, sir?
Shweta is from Calcutta.
Yes. Thank you so
She's
much for inviting me in this event. Thanks a lot, sir.
Most welcome, most welcome. So Ritesh, should we get on with the event?
Absolutely. Welcome to all. Welcome to all the wonderful three singers. Welcome to you, Rakesh, and of course, welcome to the co-host today, Nilofer. Welcome.
Thank you, Ritesh. It's so good to see you, at least on Zoom.
Yes, correct. Thanks, Nilofer. So now that we have done the welcome remarks to all the visiting Rotarians and guests, and I've seen many more Rotarians have joined in, Rotary Club of Muthaiga President has joined in, and many more are joining in as we go on. So Nilofer, I'd like you to please, on behalf of East FM Kenya, give a warm welcome to Rakesh, Vaishnavi, Mahashweta, and Sangeeta.
Of course, I would like to introduce myself again. My name is Nilofer and I'm a radio presenter on East FM. We're one of the leading radio stations in Kenya, in Africa. And I am actually elated. I am super happy and proud to be part of this today. I get to see two of my very close friends, Ritesh and Rakesh, at least on Zoom after a long time. It's been a while since Rakesh, we've had coffee, and I'm so happy to see all of you on board today. Very proud to be part of this. So a warm, warm welcome to this session, and hope you're all doing good.
Thank you, Nilofer. And just one quick announcement before we begin the actual meeting. This is an announcement on behalf of Rotary Club of Nairobi and Rotary District 9212. Tomorrow on 23rd of October, we are having a district event for cancer awareness. And it's a Zoom event between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. East Africa time. And we have many speakers, including cancer survivors, as well as panelists, oncologists, and many other individuals. So I will share the details, and it would be wonderful if we can have individuals log on and benefit from that wonderful talk on the cancer awareness. And now I have the distinct pleasure to introduce the speaker, Mr. Rakesh Bakshi. But before I do that, I would like to say a big welcome once again to Nilofer, a very dear friend as well. And we are just grateful to have this opportunity to partner with East FM. Nilofer, before I introduce Rakesh, would you like to please say a few words about your passion for music? I'd like listeners to know that before we begin. And just a little bit about your fascination with Bollywood music or Hindi film industry music between the 70s and 90s, particularly.
You know, I always say this to my mother कि मैं 90s की बच्ची हूँ. I have grown up with the 90s music, but my heart and soul is somewhere back in time. कहीं ना कहीं मेरा कोई पुनर्जन्म, like you know, पहले का कोई जन्म होगा connection with this music of the 70s, 80s, 90s. Literally, I love the era. I love classic music, and I think that's one of the reasons I even got the Sunday morning show where I play a lot of classic music. And for some reason, I don't know, shayad isme koi personal hogi choice, I end up playing a lot of songs of Anand Bakshi Saab's from the 80s, from the 90s, and Kishore Kumar, of course. वो मेरे दोनों favorite रहे हैं. इतना wide collection आनंद बख्शी साहब का रहा है कि आप कितने भी उनके गाने play करें, and I'm not only saying this because Rakesh is here, this is coming right from my soul. His songs were so meaningful. एक एक लफ्ज उनके गाने का इतना meaningful होता है that you kind of just connect with the music, you connect with the song. And I would say one thing that I really thank God for giving me this opportunity to play these songs, to connect with it, to connect with my listeners through music and through East FM. So Rakesh, I think I would say thanks to you because right now you are the closest connection to Anand Bakshi Saab. You're his son and we know you on such a personal level. So yeah, thank you for, you know, I should say thanks to him for giving us such great music.
And I would say thanks to radio presenters like you for doing the morning show, because I think the morning, just like how the morning breakfast, they say, sets the mood of the day.
Absolutely.
The morning radio show sets the mood of the day, you know. So I think people who, I mean, tune into you early in the morning, they're hoping that by listening to you, you know, their mood will be elevated. So you should actually be called mood elevators more than just radio presenters.
That's a good one.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to give a brief introduction. I do have quite a bit I can say about Mr. Rakesh Anand Bakshi to all the listeners, but I'd like to give a brief introduction because what I want to do is I want to extract some of these answers from Mr. Bakshi as we carry on this interview. This one-on-one conversation. So in brief, what I can say is he's a wonderful humanitarian. Mr. Rakesh Anand Bakshi is an author, film screenwriter, director, photographer, fitness enthusiast. His books, Director's Diaries and Director's Diaries 2, showcase the journey of Hindi film industry's leading filmmakers during the making of their first films. And his book, Let's Talk on Air, is perhaps one of probably the very few books to be written on radio presenters and radio entertainment. And he also has an organization called Bicycles Angels. And we are going to, in conversation, extract much more information from this gentleman. And that's when you will realize no one is unlimited. He's absolutely unlimited and a true role model to all. So Rakesh, welcome.
Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you very much. People always mention our tiny successes and our tiny achievements, when we are reduced. But behind us, behind people like us who are considered successful, there are strings of failures, strings of losing out or not getting your due, or not being recognized, or being rejected, or failing at tasks. So, I mean, along with being an author, filmmaker, I'm also somebody whose marriage failed. I'm also somebody who could not complete his graduation. I'm also somebody whose business failed. And I think these three failures, initially I thought they were my failures. I took them personally, like, I am not good enough to study. I'm not able to complete my graduation. I dropped out in the middle of my graduation. When my marriage failed, I thought I was responsible for my marriage breaking. So I thought there was something wrong with me. I failed. And my business didn't run for 15 years. After 15 years, I had to pull up my business. I thought maybe there's something I didn't do right, But it's only after living another 20 years down the line, I realized that I didn't fail. My marriage failed. I didn't fail. My business failed. I didn't fail. My graduation failed. In the sense that our deeds fail. What we do fails. We don't fail, So I think that's one big lesson I take from my own little life, is that the strings of failures that many of us have behind us, which are never spoken about, which don't show up on the last page of the book that you write or the movie that you make, that's actually what makes us. And that's actually what makes us, that gives us the little successes that come our way later on.
Well, having heard that, I do understand that all of us are going to now concentrate on the fact that regardless of the series of failures, we build up from that. It's always about getting up and moving on. And
and let me interrupt you. I think one of the big reasons of getting up and moving on is that when these things happen, when your marriage fails, or when your business fails, or when you feel that you didn't graduate like your friends did and your peers did, what builds up inside you and what should build up inside you is anger. And I think it's a very important emotion. All our life we hear people telling us anger is not good for you, get rid of anger, But I personally feel that anger is a superb emotion. It's a fantastic fuel. It's like more powerful than a nuclear bomb. Because if you channelize that anger that you feel at not being able to achieve something that you set out to do, I think that can become a fuel for you to seek success the next time, in whatever field you choose. So the fact that I could not achieve so many things that I wanted to achieve, I wanted a successful business. I wanted to complete my graduation. I wanted a successful marriage. But I think all that anger that built up only made me work harder at my next film, at my next book, at my next relationship. It only made me a better human being, the anger that I felt at not being able to achieve some things which I had set out to do. So I think it's a very important emotion. And I think we must harbor anger and we must nurture it and not let it go out of control. Keep it in control. I mean, not let it harm anyone. I think it's a damn important emotion if you want to achieve success in whatever you set out to do.
So is this what actually fuels your creativity? Because you are an established writer. And now that you have 3 books under your belt, 3 very beautiful books. So is it true that now this anger is what is channeling into creativity and writing?
No, not the anger. The anger is like a fuel, because we all need energy. I mean, the amount of the food you eat, or the love you get, or the appreciation you get, or the encouragement you get from your friends or family or your peers, that is fuel. It's like that. It's fuel. But what actually, I don't know what fuels my creativity, but I think it's because I read a lot. I hear a lot of podcasts. I think curiosity and wanting answers to the questions that come in my mind. So I was trying to be a filmmaker. After I was not being able to succeed in business, I shut down my business after 15 years. In fact, I was in Kenya in 96, 97. I was living for 1 year in Nairobi, and I ran a business in Nairobi for 1 year. I lived in Kenya in Westlands for 1 year in Nairobi, and I did business over there. It did pretty well, but I didn't want to live in Kenya. So I shut down my business in Nairobi, came back to India. And when I came back, I decided that now that my business is shut down, my marriage has failed, and I need to do something that I love. And I loved writing. Since I was a kid, I was writing. I was always writing poems, compositions, poetry. And I thought I must do something in writing because that's something which I love. Why did I not do something that I love? Because my dad kept telling me that I don't want you to be in films. I'm in films. I don't want you to come in the industry I'm in because it's not a good industry. Over here, your past success doesn't matter. Only if you have success recently, then people give you respect. It's like, worshipping the rising sun. When the sun sets, you don't worship it. When the sun is rising, you worship it. So he said this film industry is like that. It only worships the rising sun. So I don't want you to belong over here. So 15, 20 years, I remained away from the industry, film industry. I remained away from writing, thinking, okay, my dad is my hero. If my hero is telling me, don't come here, this is not a good profession, I believe my hero. I want to follow what my hero tells me. So I stayed away from the industry. But when I tried business for 15 years and even my marriage failed, I felt, I've become zero. If I become zero, now I can only rise up. Let me do something that I love. So the fact that I finally decided to do something which I love rather than do something which my dad wanted me to do. He wanted me to do business. He wanted me to be either a Air Force pilot or be a doctor or be an engineer or be in business. I said, enough of that. Enough of trying to do what my hero wants me to do. It's about time I do what I love, and that's writing. And that's when I got into the film industry. So I was not able to make a film. I worked in the industry for about 10 years. I gained a lot of experience. I gained a lot of contacts. I wrote a lot of scripts. But I was not able to make a film out of any of these activities of mine. So I felt that if I can't make a movie, what do I really like in filmmaking? I like writing scripts, film scripts. Why don't I write a book? Why do I have to write a film? If I like writing, why not put the skill of writing to other use? Why put it only to use in film? Because if I'm not able to make a film, will I consider myself a failed filmmaker? No, I rather consider myself a successful author by changing my direction. I'll stay in films, I'll stay in the film industry, but I'll not write movies, I'll write books. So when I decided to write a book, I thought backwards, okay, now I want to write a book. What should I write about? What do I know best in film industry? Do I know actors better? Do I know cinematographers better? Do I know production designers better? Do I know editors better? No, I know directors because I'm a director myself. I've learned direction. I've learned filmmaking. I know so much about filmmaking, how directors make films. I've worked with so many directors. Let me write a book about how directors became directors. How did they become directors? How did they reach the milestone of the first film? What does it take a human being to build his first factory, or to earn his first kiss, or to start his first book, write his first book, write his or her make a first film? So I was very curious to know, how did these filmmakers who are right now ruling Bollywood, who are #1 filmmakers of India, how did they come to films? What books did they read? What movies did they watch? Which directors and actors did they worship? Who were their heroes? I was very curious to know about them because I said, if I come to know about them, I'll understand myself better. So my journey to understand how these big eminent filmmakers became filmmakers, what was their journey from childhood till the first film? What are the things they did? Who are the people they met? What kind of neighbors did they have? What kind of siblings did they have? What kind of heroes did they have? All those questions, I put them in a bunch of papers. And I started writing my book. I started meeting filmmakers and I started asking them these questions. Where were you born? What was your mother like? What was your dad like? When did you watch your first? Do you have a memory of the first film you watched? Who's the earliest director you worship? Who's the earliest filmmakers you worship? So all that led to this book called Director's Diaries, which was the first book in India ever written on filmmakers. And that was not the only ambition. My ambition was also that there are hundreds and thousands of people who don't belong to film families. They do not come from. They are not the children of Anand Bakshi, who's a ruling lyrics writer in Bollywood. How do those people come to Bollywood? They have no way. They don't have a path. They don't know how to come here. They don't know whom to meet. They don't know how to go to production houses, which production houses to go to. So I thought, if I write a film about successful filmmakers, asking them how they came into filmmaking from no film background, this book can give a path to millions of other people who are not from privileged families like me. I knew how to become a filmmaker. I knew which producer to meet. I knew which director to go and work for. But there are millions who don't know, whose father is not Amitabh Bachchan, whose father is not Anand Bakshi, whose father is not Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, who is going to show them the path? I thought I'll do it. I'll write a book which will show the path to millions of people in India or living abroad who want to come to Bollywood, don't know how to come here, don't know what is the first step I should take, which is the third step I should take, which is the 21st step I should take. How will I become a filmmaker? So I interviewed filmmakers who were not from film background, whose parents were not in filmmaking. Because millions of people don't have parents in filmmaking and they have a dream to come to Bollywood. My book will cater to such people. And even if one such person makes a movie inspired by my book, our book, the book that is written by me, but is thanks to the stories of these filmmakers, then I will think that I made my first film. That with that joy, with that kind of selfless happiness, you know, that if somebody somewhere benefits from even one person can make his first film, reading my book, being inspired by it, that is the kind of target, that is the kind of goal I really had. The book was just a byproduct of my ambition.
Well, thank you, because the fact is that is such a wonderful book. And even for individuals who, like myself, who like watching movies, it was quite eye-opening to read these stories. The first book itself was very fascinating. And thereafter to come up with the second one is quite a feat. But now my question to you would be regarding your first book, Director's Diaries, The Road to Their First Film. You got a dozen of the biggest directors in Indian cinema to share many profound concepts in it. And it became, like you have mentioned, the guide for film students and cinema lovers across the world. And first of all, I'd also like to congratulate you once again for the second edition, Director's Diaries 2, which is also quite a wonderful read. What would you say was your biggest challenge in writing these books?
The biggest challenge in writing this book was that, number one, I had never written a book before. I didn't know how to write books. I just knew how to write film scripts. But I knew how to write this book. It doesn't matter in life if you don't know how things are done. But if there's something which you know you want to do and you know how to do that particular thing, go with it. Many filmmakers ask me, have you written a book before? I said, I've never written a book before. So how do you know that you're going to be able to write a book? I said, I don't know how I'm able to be able to write a book, but I do know how I'm going to be able to write this book. Because this book is something I know. You know, this book is born in me. I want to know how these guys became filmmakers. And through that, I'll tell their stories to people and they'll find out the way to become filmmakers. So I don't know how to write books, but I know how to write this book because this book is born in me. It's coming deep from me. It's a need of, it's my own need to do something relevant, not just for myself, but even for others. And there was another reason, you know, the other reason was, you know, I was looking for some kind of love and appreciation from my family and close friends, you know, because they all looking up to me to make a film for so many years, 10 years, 15 years went by. I was not able to make my own first film. I was so desperate that I want to do something that will make my friends and my close friends and my family love me even more than they love me. And if I do something which is unique and different and is able to inspire people, the love I will get from my family, I mean, I want them to know me beyond just being Anand Bakshi's son. I want them to know me as Rakesh, the author. So that was another ambition somewhere. You know, there's number one reason why we do things. There are many things that come together and they just push you in that one direction, you know, and you keep walking and keep walking and keep walking. So the most challenging thing in writing this book was meeting the directors. They are all eminent directors. They're all currently making movies. So some directors, it took me 3 years to meet, 3 years to complete their interview. Some it took me 5 years to complete their interview. Some directors took me 6, 7, 9 months to just meet for the first time in spite of hundreds of messages. So I kept messaging people, the filmmakers I wanted to meet. Until they didn't tell me to buzz off, I didn't buzz off. I just kept messaging them once a month, once in 2 months, once in 3 months, once in 15 days, you know, depending on what I felt what kind of liberty I can take with this particular person. And I must tell you something very, which is like a real, like a secret. Some directors would not reply to me for 2 months, 6 months, 4 months. But the only reason I kept messaging them was whenever they replied to me, even if it was after 1 year or 6 months, they always mentioned my name. Hi Rakesh, received a message, sorry not able to get back. Please call me after 6 months. Please call me after 3 months. The fact that they mentioned my name, Rakesh, for me was a sign that if this person was not interested in this book, was not interested in being part of this book, he or she would not have mentioned my name. And that also made me realize that very often people who really mean a lot to us, you will see, if you mean a lot to somebody, that person will always mention your name when the person messages you, particularly on your birthday. A message that comes with a name is just a message. But a message that comes with a name, good morning Rakesh, good night Rakesh, hey Rakesh, how are you? Hey Rakesh, let's meet after 1 week. That person is definitely going to meet you after 1 week because he has mentioned your name. That was my learning, my own experience.
That's quite a...
Now, before we go to the next question, let's ask one of our singers to sing a song.
Certainly.
Because I think Nilufer, are you with us? Who would you like to ask to sing a song for us? Because I wanted Nilufer to.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Nilufer, are you here?
Okay. Of course, I would like to all of them sing because I'm. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My network is a bit low. I don't know what's the problem.
So
but,
why don't you put your video off?
To sort it out.
Put your
as
video
far
off.
As you can hear me. Yeah, that's. I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, of course, before we hear all these three lovely ladies out here who are going to sing for us, I'm super excited for that. I like to ask you one thing, Rakesh. You know, itni achhi aapne book likhi. You've gifted me as well. Thank you so much once again for both the books, all the three books rather. But especially about Director's Diaries 1 and 2. So you got to interview, you got to write about these amazing creative people. Kuch to aapne unse sikha hoga as a writer or as a colleague or as a friend, something you learned from them as individuals or as directors?
Okay. So there are two things which come to my mind immediately. I mean, I learned tons of things, tons. I'm telling you, the biggest beneficiary of my book is me. Biggest beneficiary. I learned so much meeting them, sitting with them, being with them, having a cup of coffee and chai with them, having lunch with them. So many things we spoke about. I learned so much. But what comes to mind immediately are two things. One is what Farah Khan told me is that, don't, whatever people tell you, don't take it as advice. Nobody has a right to advise you. Whatever anybody tells you in this world, whoever it may be, even if it is a mother, your father, your sister, the person who loves you the most, who cares the most for you, whatever they tell you, never take it as an advice. They have not lived your life. They don't have your dreams. They're not going to be living your life. They don't have your experiences and they don't have your ambitions and your goals in mind. How can they advise you? Whatever they say is only a suggestion. And when you advise anybody, when you tell somebody, it's just an opinion. Never tell anybody, I'm going to advise you. Never, whatever opinions you give, they should not be taken as advice by anybody. It should just be an opinion because that's what people are about. People are nothing but opinions. Nobody has a right to advise you and you have a right not to advise anybody. Whatever we say, whatever we hear are only opinions. So that I think was a great insight into how we should take criticism, how we should take encouragement. It's just an opinion. And the second thing I learned by meeting a variety of eminent filmmakers was that the most common skill I found in all the top directors, eminent directors I met, was there was one skill in common they all shared. And that skill, they were great communicators, irrespective of their age, irrespective of their sex, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their status, irrespective of the language they spoke. They all could communicate with the crew and the crew that they work with. Whether they were communicating with the star of the film or whether they were communicating with a spot boy or with a production runner or with a light boy or with a camera person or with the actor or with the lyrics writer or with the composer or with the singer or with the editor or with the production designer, they were able to communicate very well with every single person on the crew. So I think communication skill, the ability to be able to communicate with a variety of people across demographics, was the number one skill I found in all the top directors.
Wow, that was quite insightful, because you dealt with them on one-to-one level. So that's amazing. And there's so many female directors you featured in your book. Most of them being my favorite. Like, I love Nandita Das as an actor and as a director. I think she is completely हटके अपने जो उसके talent के हिसाब से करना होता है वो करती है. Farah Khan, of course, one of them. Tanuja Chandra, not forgetting. I think her movies are phenomenal. So what was the drive for you to cover most of these female directors? Kuch to special hoga.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what is special about the women filmmakers was that, being a man, how many ever biographies I may read of women, how many ever stories I may read of women, how many ever women I may have in my personal life, whether they are my sisters, whether they are my nieces, whether they are my girlfriends, whether they are my, my cousin sisters or my mother. I can never think like a woman. I mean, I may read possibly every published biography in the world written by any woman on any woman. But I will never, ever, even if I'm the most empathetic soul on this earth, most empathetic person, I can be in anybody's shoes, any woman's shoes. I will never be able to think like her, because we are completely different people. And I think the day you understand that however empathetic you may be, however loving you may be, you can never think like your daughter, you can never think like a sister, you can never think like a mother, you can never think like your director. That's the day you will be a better friend, a better brother, a better daddy, a better uncle, a better male friend or anything, because so I was very keen that I must also feature women directors, because I have got the male perspective in my book. Mm-hmm. And I am a male myself. I am the guy who asks the questions. I'm the guy who framed the questions. I'm the guy who asked the questions. I'm the guy who heard the questions. I'm the guy who's editing the book. It's all male perspective, So I was very keen to also have a female voice in the book, so that not just because I want a variety of directors, but also so that people can get a little bit of a break, subconsciously get a break from this male perspective that's been going on from the first page to the last page, I'm subconscious. It's not a conscious effort. That's how we are. That's in our DNA. We think like that. We think like men. We think like the male gender, However empathetic may be, you can never think like a woman. And I think the day you understand that and respect that, you'll be a better friend, a better husband, a better daddy, a better uncle.
That's amazing to hear from a man's perspective. Well, on a lighter note, they say, yeah, it's hard to understand a woman. I don't know, in that way, have you managed to understand a little bit about women? Because वो jokes होते हैं ना कि औरत को समझना बिल्कुल नामुमकिन है. I get to hear that a lot.
Yeah. I think, but I think the only thing which I've understood is that they're different. And because they're different, you need to listen better. You need to hear them out better. Yeah. You need to give them a little more time. Particularly when you meet a woman, when I met directors, when I met whether I meet women as directors or as an author or as writers, I realized one thing: the difference between men and women is that men, you can just get into the business. Mm-hmm. Hey, what's up? What have you written? Like, where do we start from? But when I would meet the women director, you just can't get into the topic. You have to ask, how are you? How's family? How's the weather? You have to. I'm telling you, no jokes. I'm not being derogatory or funny about it. It takes. You just can't get into a woman's life just like that. You need to chill, calm down, talk about the environment, ask how she is. How is the family life doing? How is how are things around her? And then get to her. You just can't, okay, come on, what's up? What have you last written? It doesn't work with a woman. You need to really, warm up, whoever it may be. I mean, even if I met them the third time, fourth time, I would always never get into the conversation right away. Ask for a cup of tea, let the tea come, and talk about the kids, talk about the next movie, talk about the movies released lately. I don't know. I think maybe it's about winning confidence, because I think they get judged so easily. Women get judged so much, and they get judged so easily by people, even by women. Women get judged even by women very easily. So I think you really need to work on winning their confidence every time you meet them. You need to earn that space with them. You need to earn that time with them. I feel that's my experience.
Thank you so much. That was very, very well said. I don't know, before moving on, are we going to enjoy some tunes now? Well,
Yeah, let's hear. Let's hear. Who do you want you to sing for us first? There are
anyone
three
you
singers.
choose. They all look
All dying to
all
sing.
ready to entertain us.
You decide.
Can I have a suggestion? Since we had Sangeeta join us right from the beginning, I think
Yeah. Sangeeta came first.
fair.
She's the first one to sign in. Sangeeta, fantastic. Sangeeta, can we have a? Can we? What song? What song have you chosen to sing, and why have you chosen this song?
Okay, sir. Since we are celebrating 25 years of the release of Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, so I'm supposed to sing that song. One of the most, actually all the songs were very super hit from that movie. But the one song I like the most from that movie is Mere Khwabon Mein Jo Aaye. Because of the jovialness. Yes, ma'am. So because of the jovialness we feel in that song, I really love that song. And the lyrics are written by Anand Bakshi Sahab. And music is given by Jatin Lalit ji. And singer is Lata Mangeshkar. So may I proceed?
Yeah, proceed. But I think you put your video off because your voice is cracking. Put your video off and sing.
Oh.
Because I think your network is not good.
It depends. Sometimes I just change the location. But yes, for safety, I will stop the video.
May I please ask everyone to mute? We have a screen saying Rotary Club of Madras. Kindly mute.
Thank you for understanding.
Past President Gopinath. Past President Gopinath, could you please mute? I think you're screen sharing.
Oh.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll ask everyone to please mute. Please, everyone, please mute. Sorry, Sangeeta.
It's fine, sir. It's fine.
Yeah, Sangeeta, you can start now. Sorry.
It's okay. मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए आके मुझे छेड़ जाए मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए आके मुझे छेड़ जाए उसी का हो कभी सामने तो आए मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए आके मुझे छेड़ जाए उसी का हो कभी सामने तो आए मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए कैसा है कौन है वो जाने कहाँ है हो कैसा है कौन है वो जाने कहाँ है जिसके लिए मेरे होठों पे हाँ है अपना है या बेगाना है वो सच है या कोई अफसाना है वो देखे घूर घूर के यूं ही दूर दूर से उससे कहो मेरी नींद न चुराए मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए आके मुझे छेड़ जाए उससे कहो कभी सामने तो आए ला 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 ला
Thank you very much, Sangeeta. So Sangeeta chose this song because this movie yesterday celebrated 25 years of running.
Yes.
It's been running since 25 years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sangeeta.
So was my voice most welcome, sir? Was my voice clear?
Yeah, very clear, very good. The audio was excellent.
Oh, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
That was absolutely wonderful. So, can I ask a further question?
Yeah, sure.
First of all, that happens to be a phenomenal song and such a beautiful voice. Thank you for sharing. So, Rakesh, what's the one thing all great directors have in common, and what makes a good film, according to you? Like, how important is the script per se in making the film?
I think, like I said earlier, the most important skill a director has is communication. And not just communication, being able to communicate across the spectrum of people that work for you, right from the star, the top actor working in a movie, to the lowest rung, the hierarchy, at the lowest hierarchy, that is the spot boy or the production runner, we call that in Hollywood. You know, like the lightman, the production runner, the spot boy, the person who carries the umbrella, the person who feeds you your food, your meal. A good director is able to talk him or her at the level that person understands. That's a good communicator. And a good script, a good movie is a movie that is able to earn back its investment, because you may make the best movie on earth, but if that movie doesn't do well at the box office, nobody benefits from it. Nobody gets any recognition out of it. And ultimately, at the bottom of anything is economics. So I think the best movie in the world is the movie which has earned its revenue, which gives more work to the people who worked on it, and of course has some kind of a message to pass on to the listener, whether it's a message to do with social issue, or it's a message to do with your personal inspiration, or some kind of a motivational message, or some kind of futuristic benefit, to you. Some kind of encouragement, motivation, inspiration, along with earning back its revenue, I think are two important factors in a movie being good, a good film.
That is absolutely correct, especially when you talk about the commercial aspect of it, because that guarantees that the next time a filmmaker makes a movie based on the prior success, it's going to almost guarantee an audience.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I may make a movie and it may inspire a lot of people, but if the producer didn't make money, I mean, he's going to suffer, and he or she will not be able to make a second movie or third movie ever again. And those people who worked on the movie will not get a job probably again, because success gets you a next film. Success gets you the next film. That's why they worship success in this industry.
Yes.
In this film industry, they only worship success because success gets you your next film.
Correct. So having said this, and you've just mentioned about the fact of successful movies, but my interesting question to you is, what is your favorite movie of all time and why? And would you say that the favorite movie which you have in mind, is it attributed to the script, acting, or direction?
I think my favorite movie would be a movie which makes me discover something in myself which I didn't know before. Because we are growing every day and we are learning new things every day, and every day we learn something new about ourselves. And I think a movie which awakens something in you which was shut to yourself, or maybe shut to the world before you watch that movie, I think that is my favorite film. Something which made me realize that, oh, I can be like this. Oh, I should be like this. Oh, I can do this. Or makes me discover something in myself, like, I have this particular disability, or I have this particular shortcoming in me. Just like this movie is showing, I have this shortcoming in me. I should get rid of it. Like this person has got rid of it. This person has taken this path. I will take my own path and get rid of the shortcoming that is in me. So I think a good movie for me is a movie that awakens me from time to time about something that I'm lacking, or something which I feel is lacking in society, and shows us their path to achieve that.
So from this, what I'm understanding is, besides just the direction and acting as well, the script and the storyline is something which draws your attention.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you have nothing interesting to say, I mean, what are you going to show?
Correct.
I mean, if you don't have anything, something interesting to show, to say, then, I mean, go to a museum. Go to a museum where they have paintings. Why see a movie? A movie is dialogue, it's conversation. It's speech. It's using all your senses. It's using a sense of sight, sense of hearing. So if these two senses are being used, in a constructive manner, that's a movie. That's a good movie.
Oh, Absolutely.
Go to a museum and see a painting.
Absolutely. And now the next question to you is coming from Nilofer.
Okay, so thank you, Ritesh. As we know, Rakesh's dad was a legendary Anand Bakshi Sahab. He wrote about more, in fact, 3,500 songs and for over 630 films. If we, ऐसे तो लगता है हम count भी नहीं कर पाएंगे इतनी ज़्यादा फिल्में. So director and actor, as we know, Subhash Ghai and your dad had this very long-lasting collaboration for about 15 movies. That gave us some great scenes, great songs, great cinema. You apparently also assisted Mr. Ghai on his movies. What was that experience like to work so closely with Mr. Subhash Ghai, who is known to make movies larger than life, you know?
So I remember I was on the set one day and we were working on a movie called Tal. And the set was being set up, was being put up. And it was my first movie as an assistant director. And I was in charge of the scripting department. And he asked me that there was a watch, there was a clock on the wall, a clock on the wall of the house that we were shooting in. He asked me, do you know the cost of hiring this clock? Because we had to hire properties, like the clock, the cupboard, the bed, the lamp, everything is hired and brought on the set, and we finish the shooting, we return the goods to the shop that we hired the goods from, the property from. So one of the properties we had hired for the shoot was a clock on the wall. And he asked me, do you know how much this clock is costing? What are we paying per day for this clock on the wall? So I said, I don't know. So he said, you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be a director, you should also know what is the cost of the clock you're putting on the wall, because that is going to impact your budget. It may just be a clock on the wall, but if the clock is costing you a lot of money, and if your shooting is delayed, and it gets delayed by one day, the cost of the clock is going to become a burden on you, on the producer. And if the movie becomes a burden on the producer, he will not want to work with you ever again. So you should also know the cost of a clock on the wall, though you have nothing to do with it. But as a director, if you want to be a good director, you need to be aware of what things are costing around you. What is the cost of the costume the actor is wearing? What is the cost of the clock on the wall? What is the cost of this room that we have built? How much is it costing per day for the producer? So, I mean, you may be a director, you may be a writer, you may be flying high. Oh, I've written a great script. I've got some great thoughts. I've got some great inspirational moments. I've got some great songs. But, it's useless unless the economics work. The economics is very, very important to know all the time. So I think that is a good lesson I learned from somebody they call a showman. He taught me the importance of economics on a film set.
Definitely.
I mean, it's as important to know the economics in the house. I mean, you should know the cost of your dal, of your rice, of the lentils, of the tomatoes and potatoes you eat. If you don't know the cost of an egg, I mean, how are you going to keep up your budget in check of a house? Same on the film set.
That is very, very well said. And in that context only, my next question is about, because success आसान नहीं था आनंद बख्शी साहब के लिए. You're his son, you would know it better than anybody else. It didn't come overnight to him. A lot of hard work, a lot of dedication went into that. It was definitely long and hard road to financial success as well for him, and fame rather. So growing up with that, what was like one of the best lessons you learned from your dad, from your father, who taught you about life?
Well, there was a lovely habit my daddy had about when we were kids, right from the time we were kids. My dad loved drinking alcohol. He loved Red Label. I think in the 1970s and 80s, Red Label was a very preferred drink of people who were well-to-do, I guess. And he was already established in the 70s. Mid 70s, he was well established. He was ruling as amongst the top writers of the industry. So we were already affluent when I was a kid. We were already affluent. I was born in good times. My father's good time. I never saw a bad day because of my dad. I was born when he was already affluent. So he had a habit that every night, 9 o'clock sharp, he would start drinking alcohol. He would open his bottle of Red Label, and he would sit with us. He would punch peanuts. We all kids would sit with him, full family, and he would talk about his life. his childhood, his struggles, losing his mother when he was 5 years old, all those emotions. Sometimes he would cry, he would laugh. So I think the best thing my dad gifted us is not just the respect that he has left for me to enjoy even today. The respect, the fame and fortune that I'm enjoying even today, 18 years after he's passed away. I'm still enjoying the fame, fortune, wealth, respect, adoration, even today, 18 years after he's gone. But I think the best gift he gave us was those 10, 15 years of my life as a child, my formative years. I remember there's no night, I mean, except for nights when he went out for parties, film parties, celebrations, award nights. Every night he would be home with us and he would tell us stories about his life, tell us about his relatives, tell us about life when he was in his village. So I think that is the biggest gift he gave us was rooting, anchor. He didn't tell us that family is anchor. He never had to tell us that emotions are anchors. Your emotions should be your anchor, not your wealth. Because we heard stories which are emotional. We heard stories that were to do with relationships. We heard stories that were to do with his siblings, with us siblings, with his family, his mother, his surroundings, his poverty, his deprivation of, whatever he suffered. So those things naturally for us became things that anchor you, things which are important. Because if, 15 years of your early 15 years, 14, 12, 14 years, if you're hearing stories which are emotional, you're hearing stories which are to do with relationship, which is to do with hard work, struggling, challenges you faced, how you overcame them, then you don't need to grow up and start reading biography to get inspired. You're like a kid inspired because you understand what's important in the world. You understand how your dad made it. You understand that hard work, there's no escape from hard work. There's nothing called luck and all. It's hard work. It's all hard work. So I think that was the biggest gift my dad gave us was that we heard all his stories of his life since we were kids. And I remember I was in college and college I started working and I left my breakfast one day. I didn't completely eat my breakfast and that day eggs were made, like an omelette. So I left it. I didn't eat it. And dad asked me, why haven't you eaten your omelette? I said, I'm not hungry. He said, then why did you order it? Why did you ask him to make it for you if you were not hungry? I said, doesn't matter. I'm not hungry. So he said, do you know what is the cost of an egg? So I said, yeah, I know the cost of an egg. He said, oh, what is the cost of an egg? I said, egg is costing 1 rupee, or I think 50 paise at that time in the 80s, 1980s. I said, yeah, must be about 50 paise or 1 rupee an egg. He said, when you were kids, so we are 4 siblings, and my dad had a very bad period of about 10 to 15 years when he didn't have any money. We lived in very poor circumstances. So we were all living in one room. Our house had only one room. That one room was the kitchen, it was the bathroom, it was the bedroom, it was the living room, it was the sleeping room, and it was the cooking room. Everything was in one room. So we were living in that house. I was just born. That kind of a house I was born in. And he told me that when you were small, when all 4 of you were small, you were living in this one room house. At that time, I could not afford, to feed 4 meals a day. So your mother would buy one egg, and she would divide that egg into 4 parts so that all her 4 children get eggs, and she would not eat an egg. Because if she had an egg, you would not get an egg. So that is the price of an egg. That is the price of an egg your mother has paid. And that is the price of an egg, which will be the price of an egg for you for lifetime. The price your mother paid for an egg by not having an egg herself when you were a kid to give you nutrition is the price of an egg for you forever. So never waste food. So I think that is the biggest lesson my dad gave us, is that don't waste food. There are millions who don't have food.
That lesson has come to us also now, because I think that is a very, very important lesson. The times we are fighting with so many issues around us, अगर हम हमारे आगे रखा अनाज की कदर नहीं करेंगे तो हम किसी और चीज की कदर कैसे करेंगे? That is so like, oh my God, I don't even have enough words to thank him, honestly.
I think a person who respects food will respect human beings.
That is so true. It is very true. And that's
if you don't respect your food, I think it's a sign of a person who's going to let you down one day. A person who is going to waste food will waste a relationship one day.
Yeah, because you're not appreciating what is in front of God has given you, right? Simple as that. It can be anything then. And right now it's a trend of biopics in the film industry. इतनी अच्छी biopics बन रही है where we get to see real life heroes on screen. So if any director shows interest in making a biopic on your legendary dad Anand Bakshi Saab, any actor you feel can fit into the character, telling us the story, inspiring journey of his dreams, success, and humanity. Anybody you have in mind?
I think any director who makes a film on Anand Bakshi will ruin it. Because I think there should never be no one should ever make a movie on him. Never. Because he is understood best from his songs. Hear his songs, hear his lyrics if you want to understand him. Hear his lyrics about mothers if you want to know how much he loved his mother. Hear his lyrics about children if you want to know how much he respected children, how much he loved his children. Hear his songs about society if you want to know what he thought about society. Hear his songs about the nation if you want to know how much he loved his nation. Hear his songs about his brothers if you want to know how much he loved brotherhood. So I think a lyricist, I don't think anybody should make a movie on lyricists and poets. I think they are best left to the imagination of the listener. The ultimate person who can understand a poet and a lyricist is the listener. And no director should ever try to interpret it from his point of view or her point of view. They will ruin it and they will make it a one-dimensional film, a one-dimensional human being. But a lyricist and a poet is a multi-dimensional human being, like a singer is, like a music composer is. Let them be, let them just be, just hear their music, hear their art form to understand and love them. If you love them so much, just do justice to them by hearing their work, seeing their work. Don't have to see a biopic.
Could I please intervene here, Rakesh?
Please.
Since you mentioned the beauty of lyrics and the voice of singers, and that reminds me that I would really be eager now to listen to either Vaishali or Mahashweta.
Yeah, come on, Vaishali, let's hear you. Mahashweta, where are you? Are you there? Are you going to sleep?
I'm here. No, sir, I'm here.
Okay, I'm glad. So let's hear Vaishnavi first.
Vaishnavi, sorry, yes, Vaishnavi.
Vaishnavi, which song you want to sing and why have you chosen this song?
Okay, I'll be singing Ishq Bina from the movie Tal. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं जब भी इसका lyrics पढ़ती हूँ, whenever I listen to the lyrics of the song and whenever I listen to the melody of the song, मैं रब से जुड़ जाती हूँ, मैं connect हो जाती हूँ. इसका इतना strong effect होता है मुझ पर, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है सुनकर. I get connected to the God whenever I listen to the song. So I'll be presenting this beautiful number for you all, beautifully written by हमारे आनंद बख्शी जी. So I hope you'll enjoy this song today. So this is from the movie Tal, produced and directed by Subhash Ghai ji. उसमें cast है अनिल कपूर जी, अक्षय खन्ना जी, and ऐश्वर्या राय जी, and singer अनुराधा श्रीराम, सुजाता जी, सोनू निगम,